obviously we've been going now, new part of the season for however many weeks it is, 4 or 5 weeks. Lots of people have been seen. Feedback from Keith and Mel and myself, John, and some club coaches as well. Just to touch on, I think, not individually, but collectively, a few generic things that we could all probably do a little bit better, and or maybe just improve upon, edge upon. In no particular order, okay. In no particular order, but we'll go scrum engagement first, and it'd be good even from a coach hat a little bit, Spencer and John, to get your thoughts a little bit here too. From what people have said, reports that have been written, talking to referees, and I'll use John as a good example with that. He is struggling, he admits, with getting the crouch, touch, pause, engage to be slow. He is struggling with that, and he actually wanted that mentioned tonight. And that's a generic thing across a lot of us. That spacing is really quick still, too quick still. And I don't know how many of you are seeing or have seen some of the Super 15 games on Setanta, or you got a chance to just go online and pick up 1 or 2 highlight packages. But those spacings are very big, really big, and that's what the IRB, Rugby Canada, BC, that's what we're wanting. So rather than going crouch, touch, pause, engage, it's crouch, take a couple of breaths, touch, and until all touch, we don't do anything else. Take a couple of breaths, pause, that's the key one, and take another couple of breaths. And a lot of us, what we're seeing, this one in particular, is still really close together. So it's, reasonable here, could be better, but reasonable. And this is quite fast. Pause, engage. Or pause, engage. Some people catching up to what the front rows are doing. They respond to us, not us adjusting our cadence to them. And if that means the first scrum or two, I don't think we need to throw out a free kick early, initially, but resetting it accordingly, we might need to do that. So really emphasize that spacing. Really emphasize it. And if teams, after you've given them maybe 1 scrum each put in, tops, then we need to go to next sanction, which is a free kick. Aussie?
One of the things, because I've been struggling with that for a few weeks, and I think it finally clicked in against Nanaimo this weekend. And it started off not really well, because I tried the good pause, engage, and they were always jumping. And then as soon as I went to the crouch and the touch, it didn't seem to matter when you do the touch so much, but it's when the pause comes. So if it's touch, pause, then they're set for the longer engagement. Whereas if you go crouch, touch, pause, and then try and stretch the engage, it just doesn't work because they're too excited. But if there's a big gap between the T and the P, that seems to work really well, and the guys click in. Of course, that was a little later in the game, and maybe it always gets better, but it really, once I started to do that, it made it easier for them, and of course, then it's easy for me.
And the key is, that's fair comment, this is critical, all through that we have no movement. Once this has happened, the touch has happened, there should be no movement. They're just looking where they're going. No movement at all. So really, really, really emphasize that. And if that means this weekend, the next couple of weeks, pre-game, that's where we want you to really emphasize it. So you've gone through it pre-game. Maybe a good few examples. Again, John doesn't mind because we've talked about it. 2 weeks ago, whichever game it was, he started a little fast, okay? He had some trouble, he tried to adjust, and he specifically said, I'm going to slow down the engagement. And for about 2 scrums he did, and by about scrum 3 and 4, after he said that, he was back faster than he was from the start of the game. Because the team's just, he was now adjusted to the game. So we want to really emphasise to slow all of this down. Spence, coaching perspective, Johnny, anything you want to add?
Well, it's the consistency of it, you know,
Right.
because that's I know from talking to the front row. I mean, I've had some feedback through that, you know, especially in our game against UVic with that,
Yes.
because you're expecting that engage to be less. That other team fires first, and we had them fire first on us twice, and each time the scrum got reset, and then they held back and we fired, I guess, maybe a little bit early, and then we got the penalty.
Right.
We got the free kick.
Right. Early in the game.
Early in the game that happened. Yeah. So they had gone twice.
Yeah, I understand.
And beat us on the hit.
Yeah.
And those scrums both deteriorated.
At the same scrum?
This is at the same scrum, yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
and then we went maybe a little bit early, but they held way back.
Yeah, I understand.
And then I don't know whether that's gamesmanship or whether they were or what was going on, but we definitely got the penalty.
Okay.
And that stuff, all of a sudden, it's really hard to get the temper of that back,
Yes.
because it's now they're unsure of what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, so now you're waiting, and now they're getting the hit on you.
Yeah.
Because that hit is the most important
Correct.
part of the game for the front row.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
You can.
And that's why bringing
Yeah.
it back.
So that's
movement.
one thing that you know, from our scrum coach's perspective, is that the first team that hits early should get the penalty right away.
Yeah.
Right away. Like
Okay.
not the 2 or 3 and then, you know. 'cause-
Thinking it was one each kind of thing at
Yeah.
different scrums.
Well,
On the pudding.
yeah,
Different
yeah,
scrum.
it's the team that goes first, because then it's set, and then we know that
Yeah.
there's a repercussion for it. When 2 things go by and it's the third one that gets done, and it's the
No,
first
I
one of the other team.
Yeah,
you know
I
what
wouldn't
mean?
argue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with
Yeah,
that.
so that was the thinking of the scrum coach.
Spence?
I know we can't vote on anything tonight, but is there a thought to when you say consistency, so when we all leave here, we could all go with something in our mind, like 1,000, 2 1,000 between each word. So we know, like, it's like when you, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, or 1 steamboat, 2 steamboat.
Yeah.
Like most people have that cadence within them from being a kid.
Yeah.
That if we all said that between each of those words, whatever we decide it's
I
going to
didn't
be.
play football as a kid.
Yeah, most North American kids, would know, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, or, whatever you want to use.
And that's
between
kind of
each
why I
word.
put 2 breaths in,
Yeah.
for that
perfect.
reason.
But sometimes in the game, that breath might be a little quicker
Good.
than later in the game.
Good.
That's why, like,
Yeah.
if you use a word in your mind, like, crouch, 1 Mississippi,
Yeah.
2 Mississippi, touch, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
Yeah.
And then, no matter if you're running, you just sprint to a scrum or whatever,
Yes, I understand.
you've got that cadence in your mind
Yeah.
that maybe then the teams might say, you know what, this sounds the same as the last guy. They're
Yeah.
all doing this. Every word comes out, and then there's, I don't know. That's just
That's
one of
fair.
them.
That's definitely fair. Keith, your thoughts for that?
Well, I think that's quite a good idea, actually. And I mean, if you're watching a lot of the games on Setanta, and I think it was the French-Italian game, New Zealand referee who's notorious for the very slow cadence. Now, I was in a room with a lot of people who were getting frustrated with them having the slow cadence. I don't know what the players were. I think the French front row got a bit pissed off on the odd occasion. But by and large, I think if you look at those games, not everybody is on the same page. It's still kind of a personalised sequence that they do, which would raise the question with me, do any of you say to the captain or the front rows, this is the cadence I'm going to give today?
Yeah.
And use the point that you've just said.
Pre-game.
Pre-game.
Pre-game,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Pre-game.
Do it as a pre-game and see if that works. But the idea is to stop, not to shorten so much the P to the E, but to stop that early engagement, because that's where most of the free kicks that are being given are always for early engagement.
Yeah.
Aussie?
So one of the problems with trying to come up with a cadence is what you're doing is you call crouch, and the scrums that are good, one will crouch, and then the other will crouch. So you have to wait for